Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Tonight. We're very, very fortunate to have for our guests for this evening's program a corporate lawyer and the better half of Dumaguete City Mayor Ipe Remollo. We have with us Attorney Christine Tintin CUISIA-REMOLLO. Ma'am Tin, good evening po, and thank you for being my guest tonight.
Hi Dino, good evening. May gabi ninyong tanan
It's
to
been
your televiewers. Hi.
yeah, it's been a long time coming na mag-guest kita, ma'am, and I think this is an opportune time for us for you to share some of the things that you may want to share about mayor, your relationship with mayor, etc., and of course the family. Now, first up, kindly share to our viewers about something about yourself and your present work involvement.
Okay, so about myself. Yeah, so I'm Christine or Tintin CUISIA-REMOLLO.
Mm-hmm.
And Ipe and I have been married for 30 years this year.
Wow.
But we've known each other 7 years prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time he was mayor in 1998, we lived in Dumaguete with my two boys, and therefore I was more visible at that time, raising the kids in Dumaguete. And then we came back after he lost his re-election bid in 2001. The boys and I stayed in Dumaguete. They were because they were in school in St. Paul. And Ipe came back to continue his legal career.
Okay.
Eventually we went back to the kids and I, the boys and I, Pelos and View. We went back to Dumaguete. We went back to Manila, and the boys went to school here. And at that time, or prior to moving to Dumaguete in 98, I was working with the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, the legal department.
Yeah.
When you came back to Manila, I went back to PDIC.
Okay.
And continued working in government for the next 15 years. A total of 15 years. Then I retired and went to the private sector. So currently, I'm with Prudential Guarantee and Assurance Incorporated, the best non-life insurance company in the country.
Free marketing, free ads. Anyways, Tin, I know for a fact that si Mayor is into sports, no? And I'm sure he told me that during your younger years you were really involved in sports, and your boys are, you're like baseball dad and moms, no? Because your kids, your boys are into baseball, no? What was your involvement in sports when you were a bit younger, ma'am?
When we were kids, my sisters and I were raised by our grandparents. My dad, we lived with my grandparents, and it was really my lolo, Juan CUISIA, or Juaning as he's called, who got us into sports. And for him, it was the best way for us to keep away from, or to keep us busy. At that time, there were not that many distractions, not like now.
Okay, yes.
So we got into sports, and our sport, my sisters and I, was volleyball in St. Scholastica's College. Was volleyball. But in elementary, high school, I was in the volleyball team of St. School. Not the best player that there was in the varsity team, but I was on the varsity team.
Okay.
When I went to college, naturally I went to the varsity team of LaSalle also for volleyball. But in the next year, that was my next year, meaning my sophomore year. That's when women's football started to pick up in the country, and a group of us decided to form the first women's football team in De La Salle University. So I shifted from volleyball to football, to soccer. And that's where I ended my athletic quote-unquote career in football.
Pero yung hilig niyo sa sports na pasa, as I've said earlier, no? Yung hilig niyo sa sports na pasa niyo sa dalawa niyong lalaking anak, no? Who are lawyers right now. What is it in sports? Maybe you can share to our viewers. What is it in sports and what does it instill to young kids na like you ma'am and Mayor has really been encouraging people to go into sports, be active in it?
It's well, one is the camaraderie that you have with your teammates. My elementary and high school teammates in St. Scholastica are one of my best friends. In fact, to this day, my very good friend and my best friend of all time, she used to play not volleyball but basketball. So we were always into sports, and I think it's going on to college. She and I also played football together. She was a goalkeeper and I was a fullback.
Yeah.
One thing about sports is that it keeps, especially in this day and age, it was a conscious effort of Ipe and I to make the boys go into sports. At first, it was football.
Okay.
Naturally, because that's my inclination. So when they went to De La Salle Sobel, and it's easy to play football. You put on a pair of, boots or spikes, and that's it. That's all you need. But the whole essence of sports in general, it gives you not only camaraderie but the discipline. And if the parents put in the time to support their children, they will go a long way. And for us, like I said, for Ipe and I, it was a conscious effort. When your children are into sports, when they are surrounded by a group of, let's say in my case, boys, who have the same discipline, they go to practice because they want to win a tournament and they're driven, they grow up being surrounded with that type of people who will enjoy life, but at the same time know their responsibilities. Responsibilities not only to the team, but to the school.
Yes.
And as parents, we supported it because most of these games are played in the weekends. And at least for baseball, funny though, because the boys started, Pelos and Dio started with football.
Yeah.
But that's when Little League started gaining ground in the country. And here in the South, there was a Little League charter. And we didn't know anybody in Little League, but the community that we lived in, we had a few friends who got us into baseball, who got the kids into baseball. Actually, our neighbor, Paco Magsaysay, got us into baseball, got the kids into baseball. And that's how it started. And again, I guess it's coincidental if you want to call it that, because my dad is an avid baseball fan.
Okay.
My dad passed when I was 18 years old, so never met my kids. I'm sure he met them in heaven, but he never met my kids. And that part of my dad, I never mentioned to the boys that he was such a baseball fan. And my boys ended up not only loving baseball, but excelling in it.
Now, let's talk about your law days. No? Who and what motivated and made you decide to take up law, ma'am?
Funny enough, nobody, the CUISIAs are not, I don't have a relative on the CUISIA side who's a lawyer. My idol, my mentor, my security blanket growing up was my grandfather, Akong Lolo. And he's a doctor. In fact, I wanted to be a doctor just like my Lolo. He was a very big influence on me. My dad is a chemical engineer. So it's really more into the sciences. My mom is an artist. She paints.
Wow.
None of that rubbed off on me. But I don't know. My mom always said I was even growing up, I was always the type who would like to argue, who would like to advocate for other people, whether it be my sisters or a neighbor, And politics was something that I was fascinated with. Growing up, I grew up in the martial law years, and I was not just fascinated, but I wanted to learn more about the plight of Ninoy Aquino. Mm-hmm. I recall watching the debate that Ninoy Aquino was allowed to engage in. It was televised. It was televised, and I was watching it with my dad because my dad was also invested on a personal level. I mean, nobody in the family knew Ninoy Aquino on a personal level, but we gravitated to him because of his cause, because of what he believed in, and he was granted a few hours on television. I remember it was with Ronnie Nathaniels was the one debating with him. Funny enough, he wasn't supposed to be debating with him, but he ended up. Anyway, so that, and when I went to college, I took up a science course. Okay. And found out I was no good at it in the first semester. Okay. In the first trimester, in fact. So I shifted to political science, and it was very interesting. But I already knew I was going to go into law. I already knew that. But like I said, nobody in the family was a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I had an uncle, the husband of first degree cousin of my dad. So his name is Doy Kisumbing, Tito Doy. He's the only lawyer that I knew, but I wasn't close to him. I mean, as a kid, we would go to his house occasionally, but I was never really close. He was the only lawyer I really knew. So that was about it. So going into law, I don't know what was going through my mind. In fact, deans, anyone will tell you, you first year in law school, and then it's so difficult, and then it gets even harder and even harder, and I'm telling myself, what the hell did I get myself into? I mean, my parents didn't expect me to do this, my family, but it's something that I just, did. Mm-hmm.
Now, talk about, ako sigurado ko, madami makikinig dito. Talk about how you and Mayor met each other and came to know each other.
I met Ipe because of a political exercise at the Ateneo.
Okay.
I was a freshman and he was a senior. And
law school. That was in law school, right?
In law school.
Okay.
And I met him because of Butch Abad and Tutsi Gingona or TG Gingona. They were seniors at the time. Batchmates of Ipe, and I never met Ipe, but they were putting together a coalition of non-aligned students who would run for student council. And for the freshmen, they wanted me to run as a year rep, and I said no, I don't have the time. I'm not here for that. I'm here to study. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
They said, okay, then just help us na lang. Be like a campaign manager. We'll put up another candidate and can you help her? And she happened to be a friend, said, sure, I'll help. And then they said, okay, now you have to meet our head campaign manager, Ping Remollo. He's known in Manila as Ping. So that's how we met. He ran the campaign, our standard bearer, who was Mark Laurel at the time, running for president, won. Most of the people on our slate won. And that's how I met Ipe.
Now, what was your initial impression of Mayor when you met him?
Initial impression, I didn't have any because, like I said, didn't have any because he was kind of standoffish because I was told to meet him somewhere in school. And I'd go up to him and I say, are you Ping Remollo? And he says, yes, who are you? But then again, he's an upperclassman. He was a senior. I'm a freshman. So I figured that's how you treat freshmen, Okay. So I'm like, I was told to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. So it was like that, plain and simple. And then through the campaign, we worked together. And after the campaign, we continued talking with each other and and that's it.
Now, how was he like as a suitor?
Very persistent. He was actually busy at the time because he was also training for the Jessup Moot Court. And I was trying to figure out how to finish my freshman year without flunking out of school. So he was busy, I was busy, but things happen. We're poles apart, he and I,
Okay.
as our friends will attest. And I guess maybe that's why we lasted that long, 7 years. We were together for 7 years before we decided to get married. So, and I guess it's because we're really very different. So,
can you qualify that? Different in what sense? Like, let's talk about what difference. What difference do you have?
His humor is different from mine. Although I find him very funny. I do find him very funny, but my humor is different. So he doesn't really laugh at my jokes, but I laugh at his jokes. He's very spontaneous. I'm more organized than he is.
Okay.
I like to plan to a T.
Correct. Yes.
Ipe, of course, likes to plan, but he also is. As you know, Dino, he's very controlling also. But he allows himself space to make mistakes because he sees them as challenges.
Correct.
He sees things that come his way as challenges. I stress out. If I can't control it, then I stress out. And in that regard, we're different. My music, the music that I like to listen to is different from the music he likes to listen to. Ipe is an old soul. A lot of his high school, his very good friends from high school, from Silliman, batch 77. They say that as well. He's an old soul. So, kinaraan, in other words. He's very disciplined. I'm not. Oddly as it is, because I'm very, I'm how do you call this? I'm very organized, but I'm not disciplined. He is.
Okay. Now, you said a while ago, 7 years kayo magka-boyfriend and girlfriend. In that 7 years, what impressed you most about Mayor?
Oh, he's so driven.
Okay.
Driven kaya na siya. And he takes calculated risks. He's not the type, hindi siya type na, bahala na lang siya mahitabo. He's not like that.
Okay.
He knows something. I mean, just like when we started, when we started. So, okay, so we're going steadies, and he was, talking about, we've been together for so long, talking about getting married and all of that. Pero para niya, he will not get married until he buys a house. I'm like, pastis. A house?
Tatagalan pa ito.
I mean, di ba? When will that happen? And then, I mean, and because he knew that he has to have something for his family, not just anything, not just bahala na lang. And so he worked hard for it, and yes, he was able to get, I mean, from Ipe also is not, he's not, I mean, the Ipe that you all know, he's very galante. He gives a lot.
Yes.
Libre siya, muhatag siya, and all that. But for himself, he's very tipid.
Frugal.
So, frugal because he knows, at least when we were starting, because he knows that there's something better. This is something that he learned from his grandparents.
Yes.
It's not how much you earn, it's how much you save. So, and that for me is very admirable. And he still does that to this day.
Right. Ma'am, yung orientation nyo, like you basically grew up and spent so much time in Manila, no? And Mayor was from the province, from Dumaguete City. Was this a factor in your relationship na may differences of orientation or may mga adjustments pa kayong ginawa during your, courtship days, suitor days, etc.?
Not much, because what people don't realize or don't, well, with those who are close to me know, my mom is from Cebu. Okay?
Okay.
My mom,
okay.
she's Cebuana.
Okay.
So my grandparents, and I'm very close to my maternal grandparents, perhaps not as close as I was to my paternal grandparents, but I was also very close to my maternal grandparents, Enrique Fernandez and Caridad Fernandez. So in the summers, we would always go to Cebu. And when you're from Manila, at least me, this is my personal perception. When you're here, you want to belong to somewhere. I grew up not knowing Cebu, or not even knowing where it was. And then we get to be an age that, my mom would say, "Oh, let's, come to Cebu and spend some time." So the summers we'd spend in Cebu. So, and yes, maybe Cebu is not Dumaguete, or Dumaguete is not Cebu.
Yes.
But for me, it's about the people. So when I met Tipe in law school, and when he said he's from Dumaguete, he, of course, he was brought up a certain way, as I was brought up a certain way, but perhaps 30 or 40% of me has that, that quality of having been raised also outside, in an environment or community outside of Metro Manila, or outside of Manila. There was no Metro Manila then. So, and I would spend the summers that I'd be in Cebu, we would spend like 1 or maybe 1 week in Medellin, that's north of Cebu, in the farm of my lolo, with no electricity. For 1 whole week, water coming from the sapa, and me going to the sugar fields because it would be harvest time.
Yeah.
And with the tapaceros, and being with them and going to their homes, because that's how my lolo was. He liked that was a regular day for him, when he would go out into the fields or to the central. So it's those were, so it was not a shocking thing now. I meet this guy and he happens to be from the province. Really good.
Now, 7 years na pag-uyab mo, and after Mayor built his house already for you, you got married. Talk about Mayor Ipe as a father and as a husband.
Well, as a father, he's very strict in terms of his expectations.
Wow. Okay.
But he doesn't show it to the kids. So it's me. He'll tell me. He'll expect me. So I'm the arbiter. When he's with the kids.
You do the lawyering also sa bahay,
even as they were growing up, when he's with the kids, he's their best friend. And then the disciplining would come through me, because it was expected.
Right.
So that's and because he was involved in the sports activities of the boys. The weekends would always be together. We would always be together because of that. He served as a team manager of the baseball teams of Pelos or Dio. So we would take turns. Either he is the team manager of Pelos' team, I Dio's team, or and being team manager, he's more invested in the team than I am. A team manager, my perception of a team manager, or the way I handle it, is I just took care of the needs of the team, of my son, of their teammates. Ipe was different. He was into the coaching. He would strategize and all of that, and map out the training, as if, he knows. Of course he knows, but so very invested in the boys.
While you were married, did you? Talk about him as a husband, ma'am. I forgot that question. As a husband, how was Mayor?
As a husband, he's he allows you to grow. Well, me, at least me, he allowed me to grow professionally. It wasn't he never like said, as much as our priority were our children. And, as perhaps conventional as it may sound, he expected me to raise the kids, the Pelos and Leo. And yet he knew that I needed professional growth. I mean, I didn't go to law school for nothing. So he allowed me that space, to be able to carve my own way professionally. As a husband, he's very caring, as husbands should be. Otherwise, he's very caring, and he's very also, well, I keep using the word invested, but he also cares about my family. Right. Let's say my mom in Cebu, and my uncles and aunts who were part of me growing up. When my dad died, I was in college, or first year college. So my uncles and my aunts were basically the ones who raised me, especially the younger brother of my dad. Mm-hmm. So he's very kind to them. He's very nice to them, and as they are to him. So other than that, he's not a romantic. He's not, and I've had to live with that, and that's fine. In the beginning, it was difficult, but that's okay. I mean, when he does get to be romantic, you start to think, did he do something wrong? So, but that's how it is. You can't have it all. But my boys are the romantics, and I think that it rubs off on me. So I get flowers every occasion, especially since my boys got to an age that they recognize that, honor your mother on her birthday, or on Mother's Day, or on Valentine's, and there's always from Pop. So, okay. So, Ipe, thanks for the flowers.
So, Ma'am Tin, did you have during your married life now? Did you ever had an inkling that Mayor Ipe would go into public service?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Since time pa memorial, meron ka na idea.
I mean, you recall, I met him because of a political exercise.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and when I found out that his dad was, si Daddy was former mayor, and at that time they were also involved in politics in Negros Oriental, and just seeing his character, and that he used to be with the Kabataang Barangay.
Yeah.
In San Jose. I mean, hearing these stories, and then then meeting the family, meeting Daddy, Daddy Lando pa.
Yeah.
Na little things like you're in a restaurant, Amos restaurant, even here, there is Manila. So, ang waiter mo, Atty, istorya siya. Right away, tigaas naman ka. And I'm like, how dare you presume that he's Visayan, that you'll talk to me Visayan? And then, Mutubag. Ako sir, tiga Surigao po. So that's Surigao. That's not even, let's say, example. I'm just,
yeah.
Let's say from Surigao. And then he mentions names, yung family names. And these are families from Surigao. So, kaila ko nila, blah, blah, blah. And they start a conversation, Ana. And I see that my father-in-law, Daddy Lando, was so like that also. You know, so these are the little things na, and even then, even when we were in school, when we were going studies, we would, let's say, plan to go to watch a movie after work. And he'll pick me up at work and say, can't watch a movie, but let's go out to dinner, and because so and so is here from Dumaguete, they are my brads from RYC, or they're from Siliman or they're from San Jose, and he would bring them out and treat them. And it was very typical. I mean, he didn't even have to be into politics. You know that he's a people's, he's a people person type.
Correct. Yes.
And I knew it already then. And the politicians in Dumaguete then, sila Tito Mike Romero.
Yeah.
Who else? They would call on him even as a young lawyer. And I'm like, nako, this guy is going to get into politics these days.
Yeah.
True enough, he did.
Now, given the fact that he's in public office right now, ma'am, and it's a well-known fact that he spends more time here in Dumaguete City, being the city mayor, and you're there in Manila with your two boys. How does mayor compensate for his absence with you?
Absence is absence. There is no degree. I mean, I don't know how you can make up for that, no.
Correct.
But it's knowing that he's doing something.
Correct.
Which is bigger and greater than himself. It's not for himself, and that alone is enough for us. It's not like, I mean, I would have been there with him.
Yes.
It's just that the boys were here finishing school,
Mm-hmm.
law school. And even then you can say, but they're big enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, let's say, what if they went abroad and studied or went someplace else to study? They're big enough, they can take care of themselves.
Correct.
So why isn't my place with my husband?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been asked of me several times, even from my own family here, from the CUISIAs. Mm-hmm. Especially some of my uncles who are very traditional. Your place is with your husband, and all that. And I go, well, yeah, but my husband is not earning.
Yeah.
He's not making anything. Somebody has to work.
Correct.
It's not like, we're professionals, he and I. And we do have, we've been able to make good investments, and that's well and good, yeah, with our hard-earned money.
Yes.
But, if one of us stops working, if both of us stop working, then there's nothing that's going to happen. We're not businessmen. Correct. That we run a business and it will go on, and yeah, and I can do it remote control. And the question is, but why work here? Why can't I work in Dumaguete? Why can't I make a living in Dumaguete? I'm sure I can, but it just won't give me as much as what I'm earning now and here in Manila. Plus, the boys are here, and they were finishing school at the time. So, for me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And at this day and age, Dino, I mean, I've been working with you remote control, di ba?
Yes.
Whenever there is a need. In fact, the first term of IPE, like some of the sports activities, I've coordinated it with you guys.
Correct. Yes.
But after that one round of dealing with you and with your team, and the next time around, you know already how to do it, diba?
Yes.
And in fact, you've been doing it even better. You've been improving.
Now, of your two sons, now lawyers, Pelos and Dio, who do you see is inclined to follow the path of Mayor Ipe in public service or in public office?
I see no one. And let's leave it at that.
But if somebody from your kids would decide, what advice would you give them? Or let's say, what would you tell them?
Don't do it. No, okay. I mean, they are their father's son. And I think it's fellows who said it, that public service will always be in their blood. Not only are they the son of Felipe Antonio Remollo, they're the grandson of Orlando V. Remollo. And therefore, public service will always be there.
Yes.
But will they get into public service as private citizens, or will they throw their hat into an electoral process? That's something that, those are totally two different things. But they have said that, public service is something that is, part of their DNA, so to speak.
Correct.
And being Lasallians, being raised by the Christian brothers, as well as the Jesuit teaching, they will always strive to be men for others. But whether or not, like I said, whether or not they're going to run for public office is something that I will discourage them from doing, even as I'm sure their father would, will welcome it. But, honestly, he's not really looking into that for them because he knows what it entails. I mean, we've seen it.
Correct.
We've seen the worst. I mean, at least for the past year, unbelievable. It's, how do I say this? I think every politician will end up going through or has gone through even worse than what Ipe has gone through in the past year.
Yeah.
We've had a sampling of it also when he lost his re-election bid in 2001.
Correct.
But we can't complain because that's part of the game. I mean, it's you can't get into this and then cry foul. It's what it is, and I think that's very much within the territory. We hope it's not that way, but then as the great Senator Serge Osmeña would say or told me before, if you can't stand, if you can't stomach politics, then don't run. Then don't go there.
Yes.
You want to do good for the community. You want to, make a difference in your community. You can do that without running. It's different because when you have the mandate. It's different when you go through a process and the people actually vote for you and say, we want you to take care of our community, to assist us or to help us as we go through our lives, our daily lives. And we choose you to do this. So so again, going back to your question, will I want it for my children? No, I won't. I don't. Do you think do I think Ipe wants it for his children? I'll tell you right now, no, as well. But between him and I'm probably the one who will really barrage them with discouraging, ayaw, gyud, ay sus, pastilan, di yuta mo, I'd be the first one to do that, but Ipe won't. It's not something that he will want for them.
I understand where you're coming from, ma'am. No? Because the truth of the matter is that the ugly side of public service is usually the exposure of your family, the Remollo family, to oftentimes petty political disputes and character assassination, especially of Mayor Ipe. No? How do you deal with this as a family?
I'd be lying if I'd say it didn't affect us. It does affect us.
Yeah.
Especially me. Me.
Yes.
Okay, the boys maybe not. Maybe they're made of tougher stuff. But me, I'm different. However, for all that's been said and for all the brickbats that, for as long as he knows that what he's doing is right, not right for him, it's right for him, he'd leave everything behind. But right for the general public, the people whom he serves. Those who, for as long as he knows what is right, and of course with the guidance of prayers and wisdom from, he doesn't do this alone. He doesn't just listen to himself. He listens to those who have gone before him, to his elders.
Yeah.
He prays. He listens to that, that voice in his head, and to, and that's always been our prayers, that he does the right, that he does the right thing, as difficult as it may be. But Dino, for all that's been said, what makes a big a difference. And I'll tell you, when people come up to you, people whom you've never met, they may be from, in fact, there's this one, he's a professor, I think, in UP. He's a scientist. And he reached out to us because he said, I think he reached out to Ipe for something. When he was a kid, he won a contest, a science contest. I think he was in Science High. If he sees this and I forget. But he won a contest, and but he didn't have electricity. He lived in a barangay that wala sila electricity at that time.
Correct.
Pero nidaog siya with something, and Ipe asked him then, do you want a surprise? And of course, in his head, in fact, Ipe was saying, what do you want? Do you want one of those, a Nintendo? Do you want, I'll buy for you.
Yeah.
And as much as he himself wanted to say yes, his parents, his mom, I think, was with him at the time, Mayor muhang yung mi kay kabulungan, wala mi suga, kay, I don't know if wala kaabot dito sa ilang balay, or naputlan sila, kay they could not, they couldn't pay sa Noreco or whatever. And Ipe found a way to get electricity back so that he could. And then he said, my mom was right. That would have been a better price because it allowed me to study more and all of that.
Yeah.
And he tells that story. And now he's I think he won also. He's on a grant, I think, abroad. He went on to be a full professor in UP, and he reached out to us. He says, I'll never forget that. And you hear similar stories about people who say, how their lives were touched by things that Ipe did, whether he was mayor or not. In fact, some of them are, anecdotes or of what Ipe has done for them, even without that so-called mandate. It's just Ipe being who he is, always wanting to, to be helpful.
Now, Tintin, after all that has been said and done, and knowing the sacrifices that you had to go through as a wife and as the First Lady of Dumaguete City, especially also with your family and Mayor himself, and your involvement directly in the public service life of Mayor Ipe, can you say that is it worth it at all?
It's definitely worth it. Of course it is. I mean, like I said, for the bad that happens, there's tremendous good that goes with it. We fail to see it. We get bogged down by all the negatives, that you forget that, there is that silver lining that's always there.
Correct.
And, it's a blessing when people trust you, the majority trust you enough that they put their lives in your hands. It's a huge blessing. And you fight for them. You fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. And as altruistic or as quixotic as that may sound, it's true. So it doesn't. You forget about the negatives of all of this, because look at the pandemic. Okay, when COVID hit the world, when the virus hit the world, there was no playbook.
Correct.
Nobody knew what to do.
Yeah.
Everybody was thinking on their toes. And every elected official had to fend for herself, to try and figure out what to do for their community.
Correct.
And not have to rely on national government, because national government was also trying to figure out what the hell was this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And because of the fear of the unknown, meaning the virus, you had so many people who were, all over Ipe. whether, that's not the right thing to do. You should have done it this way. Why is it, we should be like this, we should be like that. And Ipe was able to stay focused, trying to figure out what is the best thing for the greater good.
Correct.
Okay, it's always for the greater good. And like I said, there was no playbook, no instructions, no manual, nothing. And as much as, he had to toe the line of the national government, he had to find a way to make things work. And he did. And he paid dearly for it. I mean, there were vaccines that were coming in, and he could have gotten a vaccine, but he said, no, I can't take one unless if a senior citizen it's going to deprive a senior citizen of his or her vaccine, or somebody who's immunocompromised.
Correct.
And even I hearing that, and I'm like, but Pop, you're frontline. Yeah. You and the whole, and everybody is out there trying to, you're exposed. And so if you recall, not only he tested positive or he got the virus, including his vice mayor and
8 councillors.
It's very something which, moving forward, other council members.
Yes.
It was very scary. It was really scary. Okay, yeah. But you have faith in God. You have faith in knowing that His will be done. And even then, there were nasty people na, ay, mamatay na unta siya, or, you'd hear things like that, matamaan ng kidlat or something, and I'm like, okay, you can't do anything about, mga reactions like that. So the pandemic was for me was the game changer. And if our community was able to stand strong, and we are blessed to have somebody like Dr. Atala who stuck to the science, and was very disciplined and was very focused, and did not allow politics to get into her job as the chief health physician of the city. So Dumaguete is lucky that we have somebody like Dr. Atala who was with EP as they went through the pandemic.
Correct. Ma'am Tin, if you wanted to tell Mayor Ipe something right now, in this very moment, what would that be?
For one thing, I think we need a vacation. He needs a vacation.
Yes. He badly needs
He badly needs a vacation. And he needs to do so many things for himself that he doesn't.
Yes.
And he says he'll do it when he finds the time, and he never. So what would I tell him is that you need to rest of your health more, and there's no excuse to that, diba? I mean, no matter how busy you are, you'll always be able to find time to do things. So it's to find more time, perhaps, to do things for himself. Yeah. For the family, he's always been here for us. He always has. I mean, the distance is not an issue.
Okay.
Would it be better that he be with me 24/7 or even 12 hours a day? Let's forget 24/7, even 12 hours a day. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But this is what, this is the cards that life has dealt for us. And we're making do, like I said, okay para namo, because we know that he's, we know why he's doing this. He's there serving the people of Dumaguete. So we don't mind that. And that's fine. I mean, thank God it's happening now with modern technology. We talk every day, twice a day, 3 times a day, video, so it's fine. Everything's fine.
Now, finally, Ma'am Tin, your message to the gentle people of Dumaguete.
To the people of Dumaguete, I thank, the friends, the family of Ipe for welcoming me, somebody who's not from there, but now I am a full-fledged Dumaguetena. My children are, raise them as much as, they can speak the vernacular, they can understand it, and it's a conscious effort that we made, even Ipe, growing up, na they would, be able to. Our Visayan is not as good, but our heart, it's in our hearts. We are from Dumaguete, we are from Negros Oriental, and know that we will retire there. That's the place set for me.
Yeah.
I don't see myself growing old here, but wherever Ipe is, that's where we are going to be. So we look forward to the next few years of making Dumaguete not just livable, but a place that we can all be proud of. We hope that there'll be more jobs in Dumaguete so that your children, after graduating from outstanding universities in Dumaguete, a university town, from Silliman to St. Paul to Foundation to Norsu and all the other educational institutions, that your children will stay in Dumaguete and make lives for themselves in Dumaguete if they have, the job suited for them so that they can earn a living. We hope that someday, that may be a reality sooner than later. A few of those in Dumaguete who had the opportunity to live a comfortable life because of their parents, or because of inheritance, or because of, that's very good, but we have to give everyone else a chance that they've had. And that's the goal of anyone, not just Ipe. It's a goal of anybody who loves where they live in, who loves, you have so many people that go out of the country just so that they can make a living, but they come home. When they're done, when they retire, they come home. Why can't they stay home and make that living for themselves and their family? Hopefully we can do that for Dumaguete.
Atty. Tin, daghan jud salamat for this opportunity. It's quite
daghan salamat po.
And thank you for opening up to our viewers about your pet, your kids, and your life. And quite an honor.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
Daghan salamat.
Daghan salamat. Ma'am, that's our guest for tonight, the corporate lawyer and better half, and the First Lady of Dumaguete City, the wife of Mayor Ipe Remollo, Attorney CRISTINE Tintin CUISIA-REMOLLO. And please do continue to like us at our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's Talk with Dok Dinno, Dumaguete. So that's our show for tonight. I'm Dok Dinno. Be safe, and let's keep talking.